We're back in my studio and I want to show you some of the fun projects that I've done with resin epoxy, and you can see there's quite a variety from bookmarks to rocks and all kinds of other projects using different materials and that are different sizes. We are going to make some resin bookmarks today, but I wanted to show you it's just an introduction to resin, and there are so many different ways that you can go on to larger projects. This is just an example of how to use resin and what you will need to do in order to do those bigger projects. So we'll be back in a minute. Hi, I'm back again, and now we're going to actually make the resin bookmark. And I just want to tell you, I ordered these little forms online, and I got 9 of them and 3 of each size. Now, you may find another site that you like better. Then, to do resin, the first thing you have to do is put on vinyl gloves, because of course it's sticky. And you want to have something. I use this old Tupperware pastry sheet to protect my table, because I found even with the vinyl tablecloth that it stayed sticky. And this, it'll dry on this. So I use this. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to use these 2 products, the epoxy resin and the epoxy hardener. Now, a lot of times it'll come in different sizes and from different companies. I base mine on things like how much do I want to buy and how much do I want to spend, and sometimes, you know, what the rating is on it. And then epoxy it's really important that you get equal amounts of the 2 ingredients. So you can either use a scale. This is a little postal scale I have, or you can do it by measuring. Now, if you're using a larger quantity, you might use something like this. This came with one of the kits I bought online of resin and hardener, and it has measurements on it. You want to have them exact, or at least as close to exact as you possibly can, because it impacts how the resin dries and hardens. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little cup. We're just going to use a little tiny bit, and we're doing this so that we can learn how to do resin epoxy, not anything, you know, you're not going to go out and buy resin just to make a bookmark unless you're going to go into business or something. So this is a trial run. You're going to do the same thing regardless of how big your project is. I'm going to start with the resin. Doesn't really matter which you do, but you're going to put this on before you turn it on. Then you'll turn the scale on, and mine will come to 0, and I'll start pouring. I won't need a whole lot of this, maybe about 3/10 of an ounce. And there. And then I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to turn off my scale, and I'm going to put this on and turn it back on. And then this time I'm going to use the hardener, and I want to have 3/10 of an ounce for this too. So I'm watching the numbers here, and that says it's 3. Now, this doesn't have any measurements on it, so I just have to kind of eyeball it, but I am going to check and see, do they look like they're about the same? I can set my scale aside, and looks like there might be just a little bit more hardener. So I'm going to put a little bit more of the resin in here. That's the thing, my scale doesn't have small enough increments to know that it's exact. But the same is true with when you're looking at it and trying to decide if you're right at a line or slightly above. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to you're going to mix it. And I'm going to have to find some sticks. Sorry about that. I thought I was all set up, but like I have told you before, we're not perfect. Only God is perfect. So we're going to combine these two in this little Dixie cup, and I got all these little containers from the Dollar Tree. Remember, you want something disposable because you're not going to be able to use these again. Okay, so I'm using a popsicle stick, and I suppose you can use something else. I've got some coffee stirrers too, but I think they're a little too flexible for what I want to do. I put the two parts of this together, and then I'm going to stir it. And I don't want to stir it too vigorously because that will create bubbles, and we don't want bubbles. However, I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes, and you don't want to watch that. So we will turn it off and come back again. In the meantime, I will keep stirring just about this speed, and then I'm going to leave the stir stick in here, and I'm going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. And when all of that is done, we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so this has been sitting here for about 5 minutes, and the reason I left the little stick in it, one of the products that I bought one time suggested leaving the stick in and said it would take some of the bubbles out, and I think it does. So that's what I do. The other thing is that I've talked to several other craftspeople that have done more of this than I have, and depending on the product, that decides how long you let it sit. If you need it to be thicker, you leave it longer. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it. I'm going to put some in this one, some in this one, and I'm not measuring, I'm just guessing, putting it in. And I'm going to leave some in the Dixie cup, and the reason is I'm going to use 3 colors to dye. Now, this is liquid resin dye, but you can also buy powdered. So you will have to decide what you want to do with that. You might want to just leave things clear for a while to see how you enjoy resin, whether you want to continue doing it. And of course, some products you wouldn't ever use any kind of dye. Now, I am going to put fuchsia in one, and I just put a few dots in because you can always add more. You can't take it out, can you? So this is where I can use these coffee stirrers because this is such a small amount of resin. But I'm going to kind of scrape the dye off the side. And if I stir it a few times, again, being careful not to create bubbles, I can decide, do I want it to be somewhat variegated, or do I want a really even color? And that will decide how much I stir it. And is it as pink as I want it? Maybe a couple more drops for this one. I hope you saw in some of my examples that you can use so many different products. I think I'm just going to use the large one for this. In doing resin projects, you can use something like canvas. Did you see that one I did on canvas? I thought that was great. I want to remind you, though, that when you're doing those kind of projects, it's really important that things be level. Now, you don't have to be so level with the bookmarks because they're really shallow. So you're not going to have a whole lot of difference in your leveling anyway. But if you're doing something bigger, then you're going to want to elevate it somehow. You could put it on little blocks or cups or whatever, something that won't be bothered by if resin gets on it. I I use like Dixie cups or something like that. Elevate it so that when the resin drips off, it drips on here, but it doesn't stick your project to the surface. Now I'm doing white, and this you can barely tell is white. I'm gonna have to use quite a few more drops, I think, in order to get this right. Okay, and then you saw that I had a piece of live edge wood, and I filled in some crevices in the wood with the resin, and so that takes longer to dry. But you're gonna want to keep it at an even temperature while it's drying, and it probably should be at least 65 degrees. I made a mistake early on. I tried a project when I really didn't know a whole lot about doing this, and it was very large, and you know, even though I did it quite a while ago, there are spots on it that are still sticky. You don't want that to happen. So you're gonna make sure that your temperature is steady, that it's warm enough, and you're going to, I think I'm gonna break this stick so I can use it over here. And then you're going to be sure it's dry before you do anything with it. Now these little bookmarks, this is green, and it says it's lime green. You're gonna leave your bookmarks for 24 hours. So when I get done here, I will set it aside, and I'll not check until tomorrow. Okay, I think that's dark enough. And I'm going to put that here. And then I think I want to kind of stir it together. Now I don't want to overfill this. Let's see, I think I'll use a toothpick. Remember when we did the marbled paper? We used different objects. Oh, something black got in here. To kind of stir the paint around. And this is very similar, what I'm doing here. I want to drag some of this back and forth. And you notice I went around the little knob that's there for the hole. I want to make sure that there's resin all around it so that it is solid enough for me to put tassel in. And I bought a whole bunch of tassels like this online, and they were inexpensive, but you could use something else. You could use jute, you could use string, ribbon, whatever you like. Okay, now maybe I'll do a little swirly. Now, if I want to, I can add something to this. There's things like gold or silver leaf that you can buy online again. You could use glitter. You could use sequins. Now, these are sequins without any holes in them. But I think this time I'm going to use a few little tiny beads, and I think I've got just enough resin on here to pick the beads up easily. And I'm going to put them in here, and then hopefully they kind of look like little bubbles of some kind, and hopefully I can separate them a little bit. Just give a little bit of sparkle to this, like a fizzy drink or something, huh? Yeah, and I think that's going to be enough. Now, you could put in some dried or pressed flowers too. That's cute. Now, I am just going to set this aside, and tomorrow when it's dry, I'll come back and I will pop it out, and it's real easy to pop out. You just bend these little things, it pops right out. And then I will put a tassel on. Now, here are some that we put words on. And you can see there, remember and relax and pray. We all need lots of prayer, don't we? And peace. Doesn't that just remind you of a peaceful day at the beach or something? Rejoice. Now, the way we put these on was my friend Stephanie has a Cricut, and she cut them out on the Cricut. But you don't need a Cricut to do that. And, of course, if you have a Cricut, you know how to put the words on. If you don't, you can use a marker, or you could even use a very small font on your computer. So lots of different ways to finish it off. We chose to use encouraging words, but a lot of people who do these, they put somebody's name on it and then they give it to that person. So I hope you'll try this project and that you will find it so exciting that you'll try some others. I've got some more ideas of things that I want to do with resin, but I've got to learn how to do them first. So maybe when I learn how to do some of the other things, I'll make another video. Have a good day.